Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Ever get that feeling like the life you built was a total lie?
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what Caitlin goes through in Their Shadows Deep
Her shadow's deep.
by Peter Golden.
Okay.
It's a historical fiction thriller. And let me tell you, it grabs you right from page one.
Yeah.
So if you're into unraveling mysteries
Mm-hmm.
and you like those twists that you just don't see coming,
Right.
make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. You can find the Amazon link in the description.
What's really interesting about this book is how Golden kind of weaves like this very personal betrayal story
Right.
into this huge historical moment, like the whole Kennedy era.
It's wild, right?
Yeah.
You're just thrown into Caitlin's world. She discovers her husband, Gabe, wasn't who she thought he was at all.
Right.
There are coded notes, a mysterious briefcase.
Wow.
It's like her whole world just implodes. And then on top of that,
Uh-huh.
there's this connection to John F. Kennedy himself.
Oh, wow.
Talk about raising the stakes.
Talk about raising the stakes.
Exactly. It really makes you question how well you can ever really know someone, even the people closest to you.
It's true. And I think by connecting her tragedy, her personal tragedy, to such a big figure, like JFK, Golden adds that layer of historical intrigue.
For sure. And those clues she keeps finding. They're like breadcrumbs, leading us deeper and deeper into the mystery. What's with that inscription on the cigar box, the one that mentions Victor Diaz? And what is carousel? Golden just keeps you guessing.
It's really masterful how he, reveals those details little by little. It's like he's planting these seeds of doubt, making you question literally everything.
Everything.
And the settings are so well chosen. Bustling Greenwich Village, sunny Florida. We even get glimpses into the 1960 presidential campaign.
Okay, speaking of the Kennedys, this book, it doesn't hold back. It really dives into those rumors surrounding JFK. You see his charisma, that public image. But then there are these whispers. The affairs, the hidden truths. It makes you think about power, the allure of it, and what can go wrong.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Golden nails the political climate of that time. The Kennedy-Nixon rivalry, the pressures of the Cold War.
It was a tense time.
It was a tense time, and leaders, they had to make these ethical compromises.
Right.
And this was the time of covert operations, the Bay of Pigs. People were afraid of communism. So when JFK has that scene with Alan Dulles, the CIA director, and they talk about covert ops, you have to wonder how far they were willing to go, to protect their interests.
And then there's this whole world of espionage. Right. And organized crime woven into the story. You've got the CIA.
Right.
You've got figures like Sandro Trafficante Jr., and the tension in Cuba is just building and building.
And the way Golden connects those elements is it's crucial. Like how the CIA, figures like Trafficante, and even this seemingly, unimportant Cuban prostitute named Clara, they all intersect with this political climate, specifically the situation in Cuba.
Yeah, it's intense. Gabe's whole mission to neutralize Victor Diaz, Clara's disappearance. It's all so dangerous, bubbling under the surface of this glamorous world.
It is, and Golden doesn't shy away from that. Like the gritty reality of it all, espionage, organized crime, and you really see that with incidents like the one at the Cuban embassy. The high stakes, the constant threat of violence.
But then, in the middle of all of this, you have Caitlin's story. It's so personal.
Yeah.
The love, the tenderness she shared with Gabe.
Right.
Only to find out about this betrayal.
Heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking.
It really is. And Golden does a phenomenal job of juxtaposing those really intimate moments with this high-stakes world of, espionage and secrets.
Right. And you see Caitlin struggle with it, trying to reconcile the man she loved with the dangerous life he was leading.
Absolutely. You bring in Reed Howland.
Oh, yeah.
The seemingly supportive editor, but he's hiding his own secrets.
Oh, wow.
He adds another layer of complexity for her.
Adds another layer, exactly.
It's amazing how she unravels everything, piece by piece, like a puzzle. Every new discovery just reveals another layer of deception.
It's true. But trying to separate fact from fiction in this world.
Oh, it's impossible.
Almost impossible, yeah.
It's a challenge. And Golden does a great job of showing us how Caitlin thinks. It's like we're in her head.
Yeah, you really get her thought process.
Chance encounters, little details.
At that postcard from Saigon.
Exactly. It all plays a role in helping her understand the big picture.
It all comes together.
And it's not just about her finding the answers. It's about the toll it takes on her.
Oh, for sure.
Emotionally. The anger, the confusion, the grief.
Yeah.
It's palpable.
It is. And Golden isn't just giving us some plot-driven thriller. He's showing us how it impacts her psychologically.
Right.
The betrayal, the loss, the realization that the world isn't black and white.
It's all there.
It's all there.
And then we get to the climax, that violent confrontation with Reed. It's a whirlwind of twists and moral dilemmas.
You know, it makes you think, does finding the truth always mean getting justice? Or does it sometimes just open old wounds? And what really gets me is how Golden flips everything upside down. You think you know what's going on, and then bam.
Totally.
Reed's involvement with Gabe's death, his messed up motivations. It's just, wow, a whirlwind of emotions. It's so interesting how this book, Their Shadows Deep, it really makes you think about truth, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
What is true? Is it like this absolute thing, or is it all about like how we see things, what we choose to believe?
It's like that saying, right?
Yeah.
There are 3 sides to every story. Yours, mine, and the truth.
Exactly.
And sometimes even the truth is like slippery.
Yeah.
You can't quite grasp it.
Golden does a great job of making us think about that. Like, how can our own biases, political agendas, even just the historical context, cloud our understanding of what really happened?
Totally. And you see that struggle with Caitlin. She's always trying to piece together these bits of information, trying to figure out what's real, what's fake.
Yeah.
But it's like chasing shadows.
And what I find really compelling is how Golden shows us that process. Like, she's not some perfect detective, you know?
Right.
She makes mistakes. She follows leads that go nowhere. She has to deal with not knowing things.
Yeah.
It makes her feel real, someone you can relate to.
Totally. It shows just how hard it can be to find the truth when information is, like, manipulated, hidden.
Exactly. And the book doesn't shy away from the gray areas, the moral gray areas.
Oh, for sure.
You look at characters like Gabe, Reed, even JFK. They've all got good qualities and bad qualities.
Right.
They're not just heroes or villains. They're complicated.
And that's what makes them so interesting. They're real people making tough choices in a world where right and wrong
Right.
aren't always clear.
Like when JFK says that thing about having ideals but no illusions. That line really gets to the heart of it, you know? It suggests he's willing to compromise, to do what it takes, even if it means bending the rules.
Totally.
Yeah.
It makes you think about power, what people in power have to do, what are the consequences of those choices.
Absolutely. And Caitlin, she has to face those compromises head on. As she digs deeper into Gabe's life, her investigation, it strips away the illusions. She sees the ugly truth about power.
And that challenges her own values.
Yeah.
She has to make some tough choices, too, as she tries to get justice for Gabe.
Right.
It becomes this journey of, like, self-discovery as much as it is an investigation.
Exactly. And then there's the ending. What do you think of the ending?
It's thought-provoking. It feels like an ending, but also like a beginning.
I know, right?
It left me with so many questions.
That's what Golden does. He doesn't give you all the answers, you know?
Right.
He leaves you with those questions, those loose ends, and you have to keep thinking about them.
It's like he wants us to keep talking about it, you know? To wrestle with these ideas long after we've finished the book.
He doesn't want to wrap everything up neatly. He wants you to confront those realities, the historical, the political, the personal, and to realize that maybe truth and justice, maybe they're not so simple.
It's unsettling, but it's also powerful. One thing that really got to me was Caitlin's resilience. She goes through so much, but she never gives up.
She keeps going no matter what, the emotional turmoil, the danger, the setbacks.
It's inspiring.
It speaks to her strength, her determination. She refuses to let grief consume her.
Right. She's not just a victim in all of this. She's taking control, even when things seem impossible.
She's taking charge of her own destiny. And she comes out of it changed, stronger, knowing what she's capable of. It's a message of hope, of resilience. It stays with you.
Throughout the book, there are these images of shadows, right?
Yeah.
Literal shadows and metaphorical ones. What do you think Golden is doing with that?
It's such a clever thing he does. Those shadows, they represent all the hidden stuff, the secrets lurking beneath the surface, the things that shape our lives without us even realizing it. It's like he's saying, hey, things aren't always what they seem.
I like that. And those shadows, they can also be like the demons haunting the characters.
No, for sure.
Their hidden motives, the compromises they make.
And the title, Their Shadows Deep, it becomes even more powerful as you read. Everyone's fighting their own shadows, both personal and like societal.
It shows how those shadows, they're all connected, you know?
Yeah.
How they influence each other and how they all play a part in this web of secrets and lies that drives the whole story.
Exactly. Golden wants us to face those shadows, to recognize that people are complicated, and to realize that truth and justice, they can be hard to find. It's uncomfortable, but it makes you think.
It does. I also loved how Golden used the setting to create the mood. Those descriptions of Greenwich Village in the 60s.
He's such a good writer.
He's right there, back in time.
Oh, you can practically smell the cigarette smoke in those jazz clubs, feel the energy of the village. You can almost hear the political wheels turning.
And then he contrasts that with Florida. Sunny, but just as complex.
Right. It's like he's showing us these two sides of America at that time, the hidden tensions, the things bubbling beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect world.
It's like the setting itself becomes a character.
It really does.
And Cuba. Wow, those scenes are so charged.
So much danger, so much intrigue.
Golden really captures the mood, the revolution, the clashing ideologies,
Right.
the organized crime, the Cold War.
Yeah.
It all feels so unstable, like something's about to explode.
It's like you're watching a country on the verge of change, big change, and the stakes are high.
It's as if each setting is like a miniature version of the bigger forces at play in the world at that time.
Exactly. He uses the setting to give us historical context, to connect the personal dramas to this larger story of political and social upheaval.
One of my favorite things about historical fiction is how it makes the past come alive. And this book, it does that so well. It's like you're transported back to the 60s. You can feel the culture, the anxieties, even the music.
And the details, the little details he puts in, it's impressive.
Right.
He weaves in references that were specific to that time, cultural touchstones, even the music, like mentioning Chubby Checker, the guy who did the twist.
Oh, yeah.
It makes it feel real. You get a glimpse of what it was like to be young in that era.
It's those details that make you feel like you're there.
Exactly. He doesn't just tell you about the past. He shows you the music, the food, even just the feel of that time.
And the way he blends the real history with the made-up story.
Yeah.
It's seamless. It's like this amazing mix of fact and imagination.
Golden's really good at that.
Yeah.
He finds that balance. The history never overwhelms the story or the characters, it just makes the narrative richer. You know, it gives it context, depth, and makes it feel authentic.
And speaking of music, there's a lot of jazz in the book. Jazz musicians, jazz clubs.
Yeah.
It's a big part of the characters' lives.
That's true. And Golden uses music in a really interesting way. It's a way for the characters to express themselves, to show their personalities, and sometimes it even triggers certain events, like when Caitlin meets that young fan at the Rainbow Club where Chubby Checker's performing.
Oh, right.
It's like a snapshot of how music was changing back then and how it created a gap between the generations.
It's like the music is its own character in the story.
Exactly. It sets the mood, you know, and it adds another layer to those scenes.
And when he mentions real jazz legends, like Miles Davis,
Oh, yeah, the bit with the cocktail napkin after the drug bust.
it just makes everything feel more real, more connected to the culture of that time.
Absolutely. It adds another layer of authenticity. You can almost picture these musicians in those smoky clubs.
The book also gives us a look inside the world of publishing, right?
Yeah, with Caitlin and Reed.
They're trying to navigate all the challenges, all the complexities.
It's fascinating how Golden shows us how magazines and newspapers worked back then. The choices editors had to make, the competition for stories, the ethical stuff journalists had to deal with.
Right.
Caitlin's story as a writer, it adds another dimension to the book.
I agree.
It highlights how powerful stories are and how hard it can be to tell the truth when information is being twisted or hidden.
It's like we're getting a behind-the-scenes look at how the news is made, how the stories we believe are shaped.
Exactly. Golden is making us think about the media's role in all of this, how they influence what people believe, the responsibility journalists have to find the truth, and what can happen when reporting is biased or incomplete. It's super relevant to what's going on with the media today.
And Caitlin, she's so determined to get her story out there, even when people try to stop her.
It's true.
It shows how important it is to keep fighting for what you believe in, even when it's hard.
Especially when it's hard. Yeah.
You know, the book also touches on how women were treated back then.
Yeah, it's subtle, but it's there.
The expectations, the limits they faced.
Golden doesn't shy away from showing the sexism of the 1960s.
Right.
The gender roles. Women like Caitlin and Jackie, they're living in a world where they don't have a lot of choices.
Like when Caitlin wants to be a writer.
Right. That clashes with what women were supposed to do.
It's a reminder that even in places that seemed progressive, women were still held back. They were expected to fit into these narrow roles.
Exactly. Golden uses these small details to paint a picture of what it was like, especially for women who tried to break the mold.
Yeah, and you see that really clearly with Jackie Kennedy.
Oh, for sure. Being a political wife, under a microscope all the time.
It's got to be tough.
Golden captures Jackie's inner struggle so well, trying to balance what she wants with what's expected of her, trying to hold on to her own identity.
It's like we're seeing a different Jackie, not just the glamorous image we're used to.
Exactly. He makes her human.
We see the woman, the wife, the mother.
And the book doesn't shy away from her vulnerability.
No, it doesn't.
The sadness, the worry.
It makes her so much more relatable.
And those scenes where she talks to Caitlin about the miscarriages, her fears, those are raw, honest moments.
Really powerful.
They show how loss can affect women no matter who they are, what their social status is. It's a universal experience.
And there are these hints that Jackie knows about Jack's affairs.
Yeah, it's never said outright.
But you can feel the tension, the unspoken things.
Yeah.
It's like she's resigned to it.
Golden handles it really well. He focuses on how it impacts Jackie emotionally, the sacrifices she's making in her marriage.
It adds a layer of sadness to their relationship, like a shadow hanging over them.
It does, and it makes you think about the price of ambition, what people give up to achieve their goals.
It makes you think about the cost for everyone involved.
Exactly, the impact on the people around them.
This book, it stays with you. Golden is such a talented writer.
I agree.
He manages to weave together so many complex themes, historical details, personal stories.
Amazing.
It's not just a thriller. It makes you think about history, politics, what it means to be human, the power of stories.
And it reminds you that the past isn't really over. It shapes who we are now, and its effects will continue to be felt in the future.
It's funny, one of the things that really struck me about this book, Their Shadows Deep, is how Golden uses ordinary objects to, like, unlock these huge secrets.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Little things like the writing on the cigar box or Gabe's weird notes in his calendar.
Exactly.
They become these crucial pieces of the puzzle for Caitlin.
It's like sometimes the most important stuff is hidden right in front of us.
Totally. And those objects, they often have a history of their own, connecting these personal stories to these bigger events, you know?
Like, remember that postcard from Saigon?
Oh, yeah.
At first it seemed so random, but
It's a game changer.
it was. It opened up a whole new part of Caitlin's investigation.
That's what makes Golden such a great storyteller.
Mm.
He takes these little things, these objects, and he turns them into these triggers for discovery.
Makes you wonder what secrets our own things hold.
Right.
Like, if we knew how to look for them.
That's a really interesting thought. It makes you think about, like, paying attention to the little things, the stuff we usually ignore.
Right.
Who knows what stories we might find.
You know, I also really loved Caitlin's friendship with Danny. He's such a good friend to her. Always there for her, even when she pushes him away.
He's a solid guy.
He is. They have this unwavering support for each other.
Yeah.
He's like her anchor, you know? Reminds her of where she came from, gives her stability when everything else is falling apart.
I like how their conversations are so real, so warm, even funny sometimes.
Right.
Even with all the dark stuff happening.
It shows how good Golden is at creating characters.
Yeah.
Like, Danny's not just some sidekick. He's a real person with his own issues, his own vulnerabilities,
Right.
and his sense of humor, that dry wit.
It's great. It lightens things up a bit.
It does. And you can tell how much he cares about Caitlin.
Yeah.
How much he wants to protect her.
Yeah.
Even when she tries to do everything herself.
It's sweet, but it's also kind of sad. He knows she's in danger, but he respects her, lets her figure things out her own way.
Yeah, even if it's dangerous. And it's amazing how their relationship grows over the course of the book. The trust they build, how they grieve Gabe together. It's really touching.
It really is. It reminds you that real friendship, it can survive anything.
Anything.
Their bond is what gives them strength.
Yeah.
It shows how important it is to have those connections, those people you can count on when life gets complicated.
So, okay, gotta ask. What did you think of that ending? Didn't see that twist coming.
Oh, man. Golden totally got me. The way he revealed everything about Reed, his connection to Gabe, his motives.
This is crazy, right?
It was insane. It was like a punch to the gut. I was stunned.
Me too. That final scene with Caitlin and Reed, it was so intense, so much emotion. It was like everything had been leading up to that moment.
And it's amazing how Golden makes us question what we believe, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Reed, this charming guy, turns out to be the mastermind behind everything.
It's scary.
It is. He's driven by revenge and this twisted idea of justice. It's like a reminder that we can't judge a book by its cover,
Yeah.
and that the truth can be way more complicated than we think.
And Caitlin's decision to shoot him, I mean, you understand why she does it, but
Yeah,
it leaves her with this huge burden.
it does. And that's what makes the ending so good.
Mm.
Golden doesn't give us easy answers, a happy ending tied up with a bow. He leaves us and Caitlin wrestling with these questions about violence, what it means to take a life, and if justice is even possible.
And she walks away changed,
Right.
hardened by everything she's learned, but also free in a way.
She's a survivor.
Right.
She's able to adapt, to keep going, even after something so traumatic. Like she's seeing things more clearly now. No more illusions. And she's going to face the future on her own terms.
And how she chooses to honor Gabe's memory, not by dwelling on the sadness, but by choosing to live, to move on.
It's powerful.
It's heartbreaking, but it's also hopeful.
It is. It reminds us that even when we lose someone, life keeps going. And while the pain might always be there, there's still a chance for peace, for healing, even for joy in the future.
This book, it will stay with me. It makes you realize that history is full of secrets, that finding the truth can be dangerous, but also rewarding, and that the things that happened in the past still affect us today.
It makes you question everything, dig into those complicated parts of history, of human nature, and it shows how powerful personal stories are, how they can help us understand what it means to be human.
What stuck with you the most from our deep dive into Their Shadows Deep? We'd love to hear your thoughts, share your favorite moments, any questions you have in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend.
You know, one of the things that I'll keep thinking about is this idea that sometimes uncovering the truth isn't about getting closure. It's about accepting that some things will always be a mystery and learning to live with the questions. Something to consider as you explore this amazing story.